Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday evening. It is 9 o'clock. Time for a Friday night blether. But first, a little music, as always. Enjoy. We are all the heirs to Scotland, as a nation proudly stand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street, are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. To the world we bid a welcome in 1,000 different ways. We will toast to long lost friendships as we build our better days. In the glens and cities, there on every street, are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. We are all the heroes of Scotland. We're a nation hand in hand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street, are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. Good evening, folks. Hope you're all well, safe, cozy, relaxed, perhaps even tired. Planted tatties today and some flower seed. Must be getting old. Getting tired, eh? That's good. Growing your own stuff. Some people can do that, of course. Not so easy when you're sharing the ground as I am. I share it the back with my downstairs neighbour. So I can't just decide to do something and off we go. Gotta get the say so. Good evening, Trevor. Yeah, and it's a good idea to get on with your neighbours if you can. Makes makes life that bit easier. I like the way you put that there, Doberman. No sharing. You must annex it. I'm annexing this land for yourself and for the greater planting of joy. Absolutely. We need the living space. Streaky baking. Streaky. Good evening. Tell any neighbour you are an immigrant and are taking over their garden. They will say nothing. It works with houses also. I, I was watching an interesting video there the other day, and I meant to bookmark it. Not all potatoes are the same, says Doberman, and some potatoes are just better. Yeah, I take your point. They just they just yeah. I was watching this video the other day, and it's not the kind of thing I normally watch, but I decided to watch this. You might have seen it, of course. It was interviews given uh, after the Second World War, not too many years after the Second World War, by high-ranking German officials, their wives. They, of course, had been executed as war criminals. Uh, and these were interviews given by their wives. It was quite interesting what they said, of course, and what is said about these men. And I meant to bookmark it and show you a piece of it. I found it quite interesting because I don't normally watch that sort of thing, you see. I'm sub to a channel that does that. Who does that? So yeah, these ladies were they weren't all wives. You see, that was the thing. Some of them were actually daughters of these men, and they were recalling what it was like for them growing up in that era. As I say, it's quite interesting how they spoke about their dads or their husbands, uh, as compared to what was said about them and what is written about them. Trevally, talking of spuds, I bought some Saxon spuds. They are the best tasting potatoes I have ever had. Used to get great potatoes around here. The Ayrshire potatoes were top notch, absolutely top notch. Um, I don't think I've ever come across it over on the channel. It's called a different version of history. Covers loads. Just let me make a note of that. See, I used to be that skeptical that I didn't believe subtitles on these historical videos. A different version. I'll have a look for it. Thanks for that. I'll have a look for it. Yeah, as I say, I never used to believe the subtitles. And I've always made that argument that to do proper history, and I know this from my own experience, uh, well, this was all about the Reich, as you call it, yeah. So I say, I've never heard of it. I'll have a look. I can find it. Sounds interesting. Well, that was my problem. My problem was I always doubted, how do I know that that translation is accurate? Is that really what these people are saying? Because I don't speak any foreign language. So how do I know that's an accurate translation? That always bothered me. Still does. So I'll give this channel a go and see what it's like. But it was quite extraordinary what these ladies were saying about these well-known figures. Quite the contrast, of course, as you would expect. Yeah. Good evening, duck. It's a duck. Where's oh, there's Linda. Good evening, Linda. But I have a video here that we can uh, we can have a look at. I take it you're coming from somewhere else. So let me bring this up. Audrey. This is the address to me and Doberman. Here's a channel to take note of. Zoomer Historian. It's got Hitler's entire life. Brilliant channel. I suppose I better take a note of that. I've got a book. I've got a shelf full of books here. Would as you can imagine. I grew up in that era. All right, where'd they go? Where'd they go? Where'd they go? Zoomer Historian. Something gets missed, of course, these days. That in order to get knowledge, it used to take forever by the time you read a book. But anyway, I don't know this person at all, Streaky. I just came across it. He was talking about Sam. I thought, I'll bring it up. There's a couple of things on it I thought were quite interesting. So you can have a listen to what he's saying.
Just in case anybody was still under the delusion that we live in a free country, a man was just sentenced to 2 years in prison for stickers that said such inflammatory, racist things as "it's
oh God, it's going to be one of these.
It's okay to be white." Just to be clear, I do not think that this is acceptable. It is definitely not okay to be white, and anyone who is thinking of being white should hand themselves into the police to be Trudeau'd up a bit. Now, I don't want to downplay the severity of this man, Sam Melia's stickering rampage, so I'll read the report from The Guardian, a left-wing newspaper. Leeds
Well, that's what I was thinking, Doberman.
Crown Court heard the charges related to racist stickers Melia allegedly designed and produced between 2019 and 2021, which he had then posted in public places around his community and encouraged thousands.
He's tried to be funny, you know. I didn't think he was particularly funny, but there was
of online followers to imitate. They bore slogans such as "Reject white guilt," "Nationalism is nurture," "We will be a minority in our homeland by 2066," and "Diversity, designed to fail, built to replace." Wow, I mean, thank God this monster
oh dear.
is off our streets. Imagine if an anti-Israel protester saw a sticker criticising diversity and got so upset that they dropped their sign saying "Behead those who insult Islam."
Doberman, that fella dated a trans woman. Oops, where are I? Oops, up here. Probably did him dry to the thirsty man. Yeah, well, that's what he's doing. I don't particularly think he's funny. He's trying to be humorous, but he's not. Doesn't strike me as humor. But yeah, that's essentially what he's doing, folks. Oh, of course, I always forget about that. So let me put it off. See if that helps any. Thanks for the reminder, Duck. Forgot about that. Well, he is. He's doing that. He's criticising the 2 year sentence. Well, that wasn't the thing that took my attention. And a couple of people here.
About the hate they have for Britain and showing their followers that this can be expressed without any fear of repercussions.
Our hatred for the non-Muslims doesn't stop us from being unjust to them. My argument would be it also doesn't stop us from coexisting with them, living in a society with them.
But I can be in a land where I live with these people, but I have hate for them. I don't like them. I say that is at the time that we're living in today is very, very hard to claim that. Imposing onto you, saying that you have to accept the British values, and Muslims are being put in situations where they're asked, are you a Muslim first or you're a British first?
Yeah, but these are easy questions to answer. I'm a Muslim first. Like, what's the issue?
But that's you not being loyal to the country that you claim to be from.
If they were white men talking about a different
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Doberman. That's what they're doing. They're conflating Jews with whites. So they're jumping on and wanting to conflate Zionist. That's right. That's exactly what's happening here. That's why I thought it was worthwhile showing you. There was another thing at the end as well, which I thought was worthwhile showing. You know, this, how many times have we seen this old Soviet flag? Nothing's ever said about that. Not even in the days when the Soviet Union existed was that ever said. But it was something else that took my attention.
Dylan Mulvaney with no makeup on. Look at Nick Griffin, the donkey that nobody wants to ride. They all look like they'd be having a terrible time no matter what the ethnic makeup of the country was. Compare them to Ukrainian nationalists who show the healthy side of nationalism with muscle.
This is the bit that I found interesting.
He looks like Dylan Mulvaney with no makeup on. Look at Nick Griffin, the donkey that nobody wants to ride. They all look like they'd be having a terrible time no matter what the ethnic makeup of the country was. Compare them to Ukrainian.
He's right. He's definitely right about this. I'm reading your comments here. But let me say something. Let me point out something that I've never heard said about this sort of thing. And the reason why I've never heard it said, it might be that not enough people know what I'm about to say, but it is very important. And I want you to think about this And I want you to think about the images that you no doubt have seen in the past with the black shirts when they used to parade. Now, the important thing about this image, as dynamic as it is, that would be illegal in Britain. Civilians in this country are not allowed to wear a uniform, and that would constitute a uniform. And that's why when you watch, if you're watching a history of Mosley and the black shirts, you'll see the black shirts disappear. The men are still marching and all that. That's it. That's the point I'm making here. Maybe I'm labouring it. Maybe you all know about it. Oh, it doesn't even have to be that. It only has to be a uniform or construed as a uniform. My argument, I've had this many years ago when I was a very young man, in the days where you could actually speak to a policeman. If I were wearing my black suit and two or three of my male friends were also wearing black suits, that would be a uniform. That would constitute a uniform. And we could be arrested because of that. So, although he's right, the point he makes, this is dynamic, it's inspiring, it would draw people to you, all of that good stuff, but we would never get to wear anything like that. That's right. It was during his time, it was banned. Well, you see, that's a different matter, Budgie. You're correct, of course. That's really why I brought it on. And the fact that he was talking about Sam, the fact that Sam was harshly done by. That's it. I didn't find him particularly funny, but I liked the photograph. And I wondered how many of you presently know about this problem. I know, you're quite correct, Anglo. They wear a uniform. I know that. But you see, you're back to this biasness that exists in this country because they're terrified of the zeal and vigour that nationalists normally have for their country and their cause. That scares the living bejeebers out of them. And therefore, anything they can do to subdue any of that, they'll do. And that's what they did back in the 30s. And that's what I've often said to you all. When we revolt against the regime, we will have to pretend we are going to a funeral to be discreet of our dark uniform. Can we, Special K is asking, can we at least have matching t-shirts? I doubt it. I doubt it. All you need is a brand where you like what you like, says Doberman. Like the Orange and Sons of Erin, he's suggesting. I'm not quite sure how they are classified, to be honest. But you're right, they're not classified as a political party, so therefore, perhaps that allows the powers that be to let it go, ignore it. I'm not saying at this present point in time that we need it, but over my life, I've given it a lot of consideration. Is it important? Would it help? How do we get around it? I have a way around it, of course, but when I suggested it to certain parties, certain people, should I say, in our cause, it was poo-pooed. So I think part of the difficulty for me is, to be honest, is there's not enough of us. To me, that's the problem to begin with. If there was enough of us, that would cause hesitation to begin with. Well, this is it. That's one way to put it. We are a very few, says Doberman. Yeah, we are. We are too few. Thankfully, we are a quality few. I'm not sure that it's at this point in time that it's necessary or even beneficial. Perhaps it isn't. I know that I would never ask party members to go onto the street because we are too few. That's going to be a problem for some time to come until those who take a leading role come to their senses. But it hasn't happened yet. I don't have a ready-made answer for that, why it hasn't happened. In theory, there's no reason why it shouldn't happen. but it hasn't. And it needs to. I have spoken with Sensum about this. He brought it to my attention. And we'd spoken about it on one of the streams. He's spoken about it on and off. That we could easily agree on particular issues. If we can't agree on everything, we should be able to agree on certain policies and come together on those policies, unify around those policies, which was Sensum's suggestion. I identify as a fold-out chair. And that has always been the trouble, that people cannot come together. We are in a nut house, woman hamming, big movies and burns, trafficked all over. And the middle class are sterilising some of theirs, and the elites are ready to fly to America. Sounds pretty awful when you put it like that, Doberman. I don't know. Just the way I see it, he says. Yeah. Maybe I'm just unrealistic. I see it. A lot of this could be swept away so easily if we could only come together, enough of us come together to get power. I heard that one before. If you can't be handsome, you might as well be handy, says Special K. Ah, Mr. Rodney Johnson, good evening, sir. How will the next election go? Oh, that depends, really. I take it you're referring to a general election. Well, if I put on my optimistic hat, I could say, and I wouldn't be too far wrong, I think Galloway's election will definitely inspire others to stand. And he's claiming that already, if you haven't heard. he's already claiming that there are people who are not necessarily going to become his party members or are, but he is already claiming that there are lots of people getting in touch with his party because they want to stand for election and they're looking for help and support and organisation. And that makes sense. So, on the one hand, that is what I had said I was hoping would happen, that he would inspire others to at least stand and have a go. And obviously, if you look at it, I think from a very simplistic point of view, the more independent people who stand, the better it is for all of us. Because it breaks that monopoly that's existed for far, far too long between Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Hang on, yeah, it's running away. Hang on, come back. Whoa. God, I'm that far behind. Jeez, oh. I'm way behind here somehow. See if I can find my place again. Oh dear, John. Sorry about this, folks. I always seem to get way behind. Oh. Yeah, there we are. Tories smash Labour, win, SNP losses, Independent up, and some British party for the Normies. Is Galloway an independent, or is there a party he is with? He's got his own party, Special K. It's called the Workers' Party of Great Britain. He is, on one level, I think, replacing the old Labour Party, which is long gone, doesn't exist. That's the trouble. Too many working-class people keep voting Labour Party, thinking it's the old Labour Party before Tony Blair, and it isn't. It'll never be that again. So that's the answer to your question, Special K. Whoops. He's got his own party. If that's a question to me, Mr. Rodney Chancellor, do you have any experience with anabolic steroids? All the men today are on them. No, I don't. Never had. I've tried them. No. Why do you ask? Is there a reason? Are you just curious? I've never been one for doing stuff like that. Up until I took cancer, I had 2 tablets a day for my arthritic hip. I now have the same 2 tablets per day for my arthritic hip, and I now have 2 tablets for blood thinning for the blood clot in my leg. Apart from that, I've never tried anything like that. I wouldn't even know why I would take them. Well, he is a socialist. He's an old-fashioned Labour guy. But there again, if you were to join our party and see our policies, they're quite socialistic too, because it needs to be. It's that simple, I would argue. Now, in some regards, we are on the right, and we need to be for all sorts of reasons, some of which you know about, and some of which I cannot speak about on an open forum. Yeah, there's socialism and there is socialism. Like Doberman's saying, yeah, it's socialist, but not the good one. Well, we have policies that we would bring in if we were in power, such as uh, free electric and gas for old people. For so many months of the year. That's a socialist policy by its very nature. But it would be for our people, if you take my meaning from that. You should have called it the corner shop and mobile phone sales taxi kebab party. I have prophesied this, Doberman. I have prophesied this. These idiots don't seem to realize that sooner or later what you are saying and what I have been saying for many, many years will happen if we don't stop it. And once it starts, we really will have lost. But they don't see it. They think stupidly, arrogantly, that the people they allow to come to our country in their droves will be so thankful and so grateful to them that they will go on voting for them forever. And that's part of why they do it. I've never agreed with that idea. I think it's a foolish nonsense to think that's what's going to happen. But I'm convinced that the people in these particular parties, such as Labour and Tory and Libs and Scottish Nationalists, the people who run these parties, they believe it. They believe that that's what's going to happen and will continue to happen. It's a foolish, foolish idea, and ultimately disastrous for us. Subvert it, says Doberman. Well, it's the same everywhere, Special K. The reason it's the same everywhere is because these countries, such as Canada, to some extent the USA, certainly Australia, New Zealand, they all took their model from Britain, and therefore they will all have the same problem because they are all run the same way. They are all subverted in the same manner. A lot of Europe is the same. But unless you've got a keen interest in politics, I can assure you that trying to convince people of this, what we're talking about now, it's pretty difficult. I just can't convince anyone, really. They don't seem to see it, or perhaps it's just too frightening. They don't want to see it. He might be that far left, Linda. I don't know. I met him once many years ago at a black tie dinner. I'm going to have to check out with my friends. Well, the only friend from those days that is left now. So he may very well be what you suggest. I don't know, I couldn't say. I'm reading the comments. Oh, there's Rory Herbert. Special K. National Socialist German Worker Party. I'm not saying he's our guy. I've never suggested that he is our guy, or in fact is one of us. But he is on various topics one of us, just the same as I would say on certain topics. Um, I'm not one of us. Put it that way. Because you change as you go through life. Your views change. The Germans would say Britain was liberalism with English hypocrisy. And they wouldn't be far wrong, would they? I agree with you, Linda. And he will do a lot of good for the rest of us, insofar as he'll create a lot of uncertainty, insecurity. Good evening, Robert. And that's what I've always said. I think what will happen is he'll continue to grow and expand his Workers' Party. He's only a few years younger than me. So, what will I expect will eventually happen is his age will catch up with him, one way or the other. He'll eventually pass away, as we all do, and then that party will be taken over by Muslims. Bugging him up. I don't I don't understand the word you're using, Treble M. I don't know what you mean by bugging him. Praising him, I take it that's what you mean. I'm praising him. I've never heard that expression. Bugging. I meant to type. I don't know what you've typed. This is for Gaza. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, I think that's what will happen there. I think that organization that he has going will continue to grow so long as he's alive. But eventually, because of his age, he'll either become ill of some sort, die eventually, and the organization that he has started will then be taken over. Agreed, 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 agreed. This is for Gaza. I don't think that was a wise choice. Mr. Rodney Johnson is saying there is always the option to escape to the Scottish countryside. Oh, anyway. Yeah, it was a word that Treble M used. I didn't know what she meant by it in the context. I agree with you, Linda. Good evening, William. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going to take my time tomorrow and have a good wet shave and get rid of all this white hair. It's put years on to me. Uh, so anyway, that's what I think. We'll see. Time will tell. Time will unfold. I think for the moment, though, he will do a lot of good insofar as he'll scare the living bejeebus out of them all. And that's what's needed. I wish my own party were in a position to think about the general election, but the cost is incredible. Plus, we don't have the numbers to have the organisation. I keep waiting on them putting the cost of it up further. I remember when they put it up years ago. Used to have quite a few independents stand, especially in Scotland. I'm not quite so familiar with the English attitude years ago, but Scotland always had a tradition of independents standing for elections. But with the increase in the cost, it's just horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Because it's not just the cost of putting your name forward. You've got you need to put out literature. That costs money. Promotional stuff is quite expensive. I'm not even sure how effective it is, to be honest. It's one of those things that, you need to do, but it doesn't have any real effect. Do people read it? Or is it only people who are interested in politics that read that material? And if people who read it are interested in politics already, are they going to be inclined to change their views by reading a brochure that you've produced? I don't know. It's a tough one to answer. But it's expensive to find out. Don't know. Right, by the way, Tuesday night I was looking for a song, if you remember. If anybody remembers back as far as Tuesday night, I was looking for a song and I couldn't find it. Well, I found it. I'm going to play it. So I hope you enjoy it. Put it over here. And then get rid of E down there. So here you go. I hope you enjoy this.
crash bang up the cobble lone. Boys would kick old tin cans home. Slap, slap on the pavement stone. Girls would skip it left alone. And I don't know what's going on. The streets sound empty, there's no street song. Girls and beavers, they once were king, gone like the children and the songs they would sing. Ring clatter scatter, it sure was fun. Hit that door and run, boy, run. Chestnuts in the autumn, tadpoles in the spring. Shout at the lassies you can't sing. And I don't know what's going on. The streets sound empty, there's no street song. Girls and beavers, they once were king, gone like the children and the songs they would sing.
That's the song I was looking for. Mijn formo. Mijn formo. Oh, I tell you, what a sense of humour. Thank you, Streaky Bacon. Thank you. Seems such a long time ago now when I wrote that thing. A long time ago. But never mind. My son liked it. That's what counted. That's what counted at the time. He liked it. Sweet little number. Thank you, folks. Just a wee reminder of the way things used to be. We've all spoken about it. Streets are empty. Children don't go out to play. Mothers and fathers are frightened to let them out. Mind purer. Cats are called Stubentaga. Cool. I hope that's a decent pronunciation. I'm not very good with these things, as you all know. Panzer tanks. Yeah, of course, Panzer. But never mind. Never mind. So I'm going out tomorrow night for the first time since before Christmas. It's a family get together. So I'm looking forward to that. Should be good. Now I take it you all know that the movie review choice is Pan's Labyrinth. That's the movie pick for this month. Pan's Labyrinth. Clubbing. Oh, Jesus. Club. Well, we got a nice restaurant. You haven't seen that Special K? I have it in my collection. I bought it years ago. It's a good number of years old now. Obviously, Doberman has seen it. It's decent. My son and I need to watch it again. He hasn't seen it, but it's in my collection somewhere. If I remember correctly, but don't quote me on it. If I remember correctly, it's set during the Spanish Civil War, the 1930s. Although that's not the subject matter of the movie. But it's a long time since I've actually watched it. In fact, I don't think I've watched it more than once. Budget, I'm going clubbing in the Antarctica. Seals. Is that I've got it right then? Right. Yes, they're hunting dirty commies. Hail Franco. I thought that's what the subject was, but I wasn't entirely sure. As I say, I've only watched it. I bought it because it was recommended by Mark Kermode, who I used to rate. And obviously I watched it. But I don't recollect watching it again. So there's lots, no doubt, I've forgotten about it. But if you want to join in the conversation, as you know, have a look, see what you think. Is that right? They got rid of the seal hunt in Canada. I wasn't aware of that. And now they wonder where all the salmon went. Wonder where the salmon went. Didn't know that. Yeah, everybody's got to eat. Surely it should balance itself out, should it not? Or am I being naive here? Oh, you've seen it, Doc. Well, I don't remember much about it either, except what I've already said. So obviously, I will be watching it before the day. Many days have we got anyway? This is what, the 8th? So it's a long way to go. Yeah, about 3 weeks. I expect you're right. Indigenous still get to hunt, but the numbers are small. Takes time to return to a balance. As I say, I expect you're right. I being asked a direct question by Mr. Rodney Johnston. Did you ever buy a property, John, or do you rent? Oh, glory, glory. I'll tell you, I'll give you a brief outline of how that went for me. I used to be a postman. Didn't realise how good a job I had until I left it. But I used to be a postman, and then I got a job in Glasgow, Cowglen, the National Savings Bank, in the days when we, the people, had a national savings bank. Through a lot of political squabbling and backbiting, the headquarters for this bank was brought to Scotland to help unemployment. And I got a job in the bank. I thought I was going up in the world. I'll go back to that, Rodney, if you wish, the postman. I'll go back to that. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, so I had this job in Glasgow. It paid just about the same as a postage job. But I had then the travel costs on top, the cost of a lunch, etc., etc. So the costs were more. So I looked for a flat to rent. So I managed to get a flat to rent in Paisley. So I left Greenock for the first time, or a second time rather, and I went to live in Paisley. And it was right out of 1984, I kid you not. There was about 2,500 people who worked in this place. Each floor was identical to the next floor. It had maps so that you wouldn't get lost. Each floor was identified by the carpet, the color of the carpet. Because I thought I was doing the right thing, Doberman. I thought I was going up in the world. That's what I thought at the time. Of course, I wasn't. And I wasn't suited to it. And I was trying desperately to escape from unqualified jobs that required nothing but muscle. Here comes the big question. Here comes the big question. Not long. But what happened was, you see, I had 6 weeks training. And there were 6 of us, if I remember correctly, started the same day. And we were all assigned to different departments. I was assigned, believe it or not, as fortune would have it, I was assigned to the death claims branch. And the colour for the carpet in the death claims branch was deep purple. And you did not speak loudly in the death claims branch. One spoke in a whisper because it was to be kept quiet. But in the meantime of all of this happening, when I moved into the flat in Paisley, my future wife was already in the flat across the landing. That's how we met. And instantly fell for each other. This is all tied into the job, by the way. And so she discovered that I was writing songs and I was writing short stories and trying to write a novel at the time. And I had already discovered that I hated what I was doing. I wasn't suited to it. And Helen said, well, why don't you just pack it in? And we'll get by. And that's what happened. So after a couple of months, I packed it in and started trying to make my way as a writer, as a folk singer. At just about that same time, the Paisley Town Council decided that they were going to demolish the tenements in the area where we were living. And that's what happened. They started demolishing the tenements to make way for new buildings, new public buildings for the council. And as good fortune would have it, Helen's dad had put her name on the housing list as soon as she had reached the age of 16. And so, because they were pulling these tenements down, Helen was offered a house. Anyway, we went to this high flat to live. And that was fine for a while. But then the council decided to introduce a policy, a social policy, where they took bad tenants from other parts of the town and mixed them in with good tenants. The idea being that the good tenant would make the bad tenant into a good tenant and solve the problem. But that didn't happen either. The reverse happened. How old were you when you met her? That's Rodney, Mr. Rodney. Well, I was 26 going on 27. I was already divorced. I was already a father of a daughter. And Helen was waiting on her divorce. And she was 3 years younger. So we ended up in this high flat, which became a hellhole, to cut things short. And we had to get out once we wanted to start a family. We started a family. We had my son, and that became the next problem because he couldn't get out unless one of us was out with him because we lived in a high flat. I bet you were doing it a lot. Not nearly as much as you think, that's for sure. And that's what forced us into buying in the first place, was the fact that we had this youngster, this toddler, who was stuck in a high flat. The noise from neighbours, from the bad neighbours when they moved them in, was incredible, awful. And so, but then because while there was only the two of us, I had managed to get a couple of jobs in pubs, bought some cheap second-hand equipment, started making money in pubs, got a second-hand car, which allowed me to take on more work. And so things were beginning to financially get a bit better. And then we borrowed some money from her dad and my stepfather, and we used that as a deposit for a tenement flat. And that got us out of this place we were in. And that's how we get into it. But that in itself became a nightmare. And at 10:30 at night, you don't want to hear this nightmare, because this nightmare that we now jump into just goes on. And it becomes such a nightmare. I'm talking about financially now. This becomes a huge financial nightmare. I think Helen was dead about 15 years before I finally cleared that financial nightmare, before I got rid of it. And it still lingers. There's still elements of it around my life still now, today. But it's really not a story that is believable unless you know me. If you know me well, you would know that I'm not exaggerating. I'm not making stuff up. Everything that I would tell you about this nightmare is true. Rory, my elderly daughter was employed by Lipton's Bank as an intern in the Human Resources Department when she was studying psychology at Bristol University. Like you, she hated working for a bank. Thing is, Helen worked in a bank. She loved it. She was good at it. They were bad to her, but she was good at it. I know, Duck. Got to remember, in the department I was working in, this is the National Savings Bank. This is the bank that was opened by the government of one of the governments. I think it was a Labour government started this. I was very popular. Grandparents would open a bank account, when the babe was born. As soon as the baby was born, the grandparents would open a bank account, put a few pounds in it, and deposit a few pounds every so often, so there'd be money there for this baby when the baby grew up. Trouble was, a lot of these babies died. So you would get, thus, death claims branch is where you would send all the paperwork to claim back the money that had been put into an account where the account holder had died. And many of them, far too many of them, were babies or children. And that in itself was just depressing. It was just bloody depressing. You get all this paperwork and death certificates, birth certificates, death certificates for children. It was depressive. and I found it depressive. Well, I saw a lot of that, Doberman. I saw a lot of it. And it's not nice. It just gets you down. It got me down very quickly. And I couldn't get out of this bloody apartment. Oh, you would, Doc. Anybody with any sensitivity at all, it's going to get to you. It does. It's a death pledge. That's what it means. There are no houses on lots for under 600,000 in the area where I live. Special case telling us that's Canada, of course. It's just as bad here. And that would happen. I mean, these claims would come in every day, 5 days a week. Just come in, pouring in. I used to have big sackfuls next to my desk. Couldn't keep up with it. It's a long way to answer your question. So yes, I'm in so-called bought property. I don't own it. I have passed it on to my son because I've got slight legal complications that I have to be careful about. Having been married twice with two separate families, I have to protect my son to make sure he has a place to live when I'm dead. So it's his house, not mine. In fact, I don't own anything, to be honest with you all. I gave all my belongings to my son in my will. He owns all my guitars. You know, makes it sound as though I've got hundreds, but I've got a couple of expensive guitars. So he owns all my musical instruments. He owns the copyright to all my music and all my writings. I own nothing. And that means that when I die, which could be pretty soon, who knows, there shouldn't be any legal complications because he already owns everything. So there can be never any challenges to the estate. But as I say, it's not as though I'm a millionaire or anything. But with things like music and writing, as you all know, well, I'm not planning to, Duck. You can never tell. You can never tell. Something could easily, one of the books could easily take off, suddenly could become very popular and sell lots of copies, etc., etc. You just can't tell. Or one of the songs or pieces of music, you just can't tell. But should that ever happen, and I'm not here, then Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's all been transferred, Linda, so there's no tax or anything to be paid on it. So that's the answer really to your question, Mr. Johnson. I have cut out a huge 25 years plus of misery and worry. That's why I lost most of my hair was lost over a weekend in worry. And that's not an exaggeration. If Helen were here, she'd really tell you that. I lost the rest of it last year thanks to chemotherapy. I'll answer your question in a minute, Mr. Johnson. If you go down, John Davison, I'm after a good tin opener, and I will, if you have one. So, the question is, what are my views on drinking? Well, I drink. I do drink. Took me a good while, of course, to find my way as far as drink is concerned. In my family, teetotalers. My brother was a teetotaler. My grandparents were teetotalers. Well, on my mother's side, they were teetotalers. On my father's side, they were drunks. They had nothing because all their money went. Oh, somebody bought a coffee. Thank you very much. Oh, 3 coffees. Or was that 1 coffee? I think it's 1 coffee. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's a coffee. Thank you very much, whoever it was. So where was I? Yeah, my father's side, my granda, who I'm named after, my granda Davidson was a drunk. His second wife was a drunk. And that's how they went to their graves. With not a penny between them. Drunk, spent all their money and my father's money when he stayed at home. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Your father's side were drunks. Yes, that's what they were. My granda Davidson was a drunk, and his second wife was also a drunk. And they spent all their money, apparently. And when my father stayed with them, when he was at sea as a seaman, they spent his money as well. And my father drank, apparently, but according to what my mother always said, you got to remember he died when I was very young. So I can't speak from personal experience of knowing him. But my mother said it didn't take much to get him drunk. So he didn't drink too much, but he did drink a couple of pints, I expect. Him and my Uncle Hughie went out together. They went to Morton together to watch the football. I learned through the boys that I was growing up beside, and they were all into drink, so I started getting into drink. But as I say, it took me a while to find a drink that I actually liked. I mean, when I started drinking, like I expect most young men in my generation, you were drinking for the effect. So we were drinking cheap wine. Awful, awful stuff. Really awful. But it got you tipsy. That was the whole idea. Um, that didn't last too long for me because, to be honest with you all, I really very quickly I got fed up with having no money on a Saturday because I'd spent it all on a Friday night, and I was a smoker then, of course. So I've got no money, and I've got to then borrow money from my mother to get me cigarettes and get me to my work. Bus money for work to get to work and what have you. So by the time Friday come round, I'd have to pay her money back and then have to pay her some money to help keep the house. So I was broke, and I didn't like being broke. I'd never been broke. So I gave that up pretty quickly. But it didn't stop me from drinking. I just learned to drink in a different way. And then by that time, I was deeply up to here in a group, a pop group. And so we didn't go on stage drunk. Well, that's right. It was part and parcel of the way of life back then. I can still remember going into the very first pub I went into. I can remember I could take you to the location where it once was. And all I can remember to begin with was this absolute wall of noise. Men shouting, smoke billowing everywhere. That was the way the pubs were. But I was never keen in any of that. Because I was in a group, you see, and we very quickly ended up playing every night almost. Almost every night we were out playing somewhere. I never really got the pub habit, nor did I get the television habit. But as I say, it didn't stop me from drinking, and I would experiment as I did, trying to find a drink that I enjoyed, and I did eventually. Turned out I quite enjoyed drinking vodka and fresh orange juice. It took me long enough to find a beer that I could drink. Because not having a father there, I had nobody really to guide me. To say, well, don't be taking that. That's terrible. Well, try that over there. I had none of that influence. I had to go with what my pals were doing, and they were all experimenting as well. We didn't know anything, so it took a while to work out what I enjoyed, genuinely enjoyed. It took a while. It took years, in fact, to work out how not to get drunk, how to drink without getting drunk, how to drink without feeling sick. It took ages to work all of that out. Trial and error most of the time. But if I remember correctly, that was the first drink that I came across that I could actually drink and say I enjoyed. took forever. Well, see, I don't quite remember these grandparents of mine. I've got very vague, fragmented images. Rory, under English law, there was a rule that you were transferred, if you transferred your assets to your children, you would have to live for a 7 year in order to avoid inheritance tax. Is that the same in Scotland? No. All these laws have been changed over the years, Rory. The laws, which especially affected me, the laws regarding children to a first marriage have been vastly changed. They have nowhere near the rights that they once had, and that was what I was afraid of. Well, all of that has changed. They hardly have any rights now. Whether you think that's a good idea or not is, is a matter for discussion. So it's all been changed, and it always was different in Scotland. And then, of course, there's a further complication for some men and women if they have common law partners with children involved, because not enough men, I would expect, know that common law wives are treated exactly the same as women who have gone through some kind of marriage ceremony, whether it be a state ceremony or a religious. But the common law wife has the same standing now. See, a lot of things in my life were driven by bad decisions that I made. Try to catch up with what you guys are saying, but I'm so far behind. Oh my God. There is no, John, there is no common law wife. That's not right. It just simply, that expression simply covers a man and a woman who have lived together as man and wife for a period of time, and I think the period of time is 2 years, it may be 3. After that, these ladies, these women, have got all the formal position of a woman who has undergone a formal ceremony. Doberman saying, no, it doesn't cover you under law now. You'd have to have a civil partnership. Well, of course, you're probably right there that this civil partnership arrangement will have probably impacted everything that I know about that. Yeah, you're probably right. I'd forgotten about that. I'm saying it the way it once was. Toilets on a weekend. Yeah, I did a wee bit of that at one point myself. Local public toilet. I hope I have answered your question, Mr. Johnston, without boring the pants off you. So went gay, yeah, of course. Whoa, here comes a question. Mr. Rodney Johnson is asking, have you ever taken drugs? I could be really sarcastic here and say, I take them every day, but I know that isn't what you're alluding to, my friend. Hunters. Do plenty. Yes, I've tried some. If I'm going to be honest about it, yes. I was in a group, Mr. Rodney, in the 60s. Pop group, stage, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So, yes, is the answer. I have. Marijuana, to be exact. I think once someone slipped me LSD at a gig I was doing. Can't swear to it because it was the only time I had this experience, and it's the only thing that fits the experience and how it might have been given to me. uh, you gotta go. Someone's gotta pay for the immigrants. Good night. Good night, sir. You take care. I hope you get a good sleep. No, I don't know anything about the new stuff, except I'm told it's all beefed up chemically. No, didn't work quite that way, Linda. No, I'm sorry to say. One day an enamoured fan slipped John a Mickey Finn, but Helen was there to save the day. Well, in a sense, that part's correct. She was there to drive us home from the gig. And she didn't have a license. She was only learning to drive, and she was pregnant, heavily pregnant at the time. I was totally out of it. I was carried from a stage, still playing my guitar. The same bit of music over and over again, you know, I had it round and I'm doing this. Somebody took that arm, somebody took the other arm, lifted me up and took me off the stage. That's how bad I was. Thanks, Rory. That's how bad I was. I think it was LSD. I think that's what they slipped into my pint of beer that was lying on the table. It's the only thing that I can explain. Well, definitely wasn't anything else. I've never consciously taken LSD and I wouldn't. Too dangerous. I know plenty of people who have taken it. Not me. No chance. That's all I've ever tried. Marijuana. That's all I can say. Tripping balls, John. Yeah, that's how we got home. Helen had to drive us. I was put in the back of the car, totally out of it, you know. I was going to use the word delirious, but obviously I wasn't delirious. I was just out of my mind. And she had to get us home and did. I wouldn't. I just wouldn't touch it. It's too dangerous. I get my friends at college, when I was at college, friends at college offered it. I said no. And one of the times he took it, and following day at college, when he came in, I said, well, how'd you go on? You have a good time on the acid? He said, yeah. He said, this girl he was with, the two of them had taken it, and he said, yeah, we went through Glasgow Green, which is a big public park area, for those who don't know anything about Glasgow. It's coming down, and the snow's coming down, thundering down snow, and this fool and this girl are running through Glasgow Green, totally naked, on acid. Crazy. He's lucky he wasn't arrested. He's lucky he never died. So anyway, no. That's as far as I'm going. That's as far as I would ever go. And now I don't smoke at all because of the cancer. Very good, Streaky. We have travelled past 11 o'clock like a missile over Gaza. So I can't say too much about drugs, except I would not encourage people to use them. That's simple, folks. Okay, so we're going to put an end to the stream. I still drink. I still like to drink. I have found my ultimate alcoholic drink that I enjoy. Trouble is, I can't really afford to drink it, and that is champagne. I've never tried that, Robert. Mushrooms or free mind. I don't know. I've never tried it. I've heard a lot about it. Again, no experience of it. I don't know anyone who has experience of it. And now I can't smoke. Well, I could, but it wouldn't do me any good. Can't touch the stuff, Gavin. Never could. Doesn't agree with my system. I should think it would be streaky. I first done mushrooms at 14. Me and mates. Funny at first, but horrendous. On your own, having a bad trip, I'll bear it. Well, that's what happened again to this pal of mine at college I was telling you about with the LSD. He said he went to a party one night and he dropped this tab of acid, and somebody frightened him badly and created this nightmare that he couldn't get out of. Prospero. Will do if you can't get to champagne. I'm a bit of a purist, Linda. If I can't get proper champagne, why bother? You know? The way I look at it, as far as drugs are concerned, if it grows naturally from the earth, it means that God has put it here for a reason. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here. And if it's been put here for a reason, perhaps the reason that it's been put here is the way that it's actually used. Or it may not. I don't know. Linda, that's your childhood dislike, maybe. A real testament to John's character. Yeah. Organic cocaine. They'd argue for it. Cocaine has got to be manufactured, is it not? Or have I got that wrong? Mushrooms are easier to handle, says Budgie. Start with 20 and slowly build up. Gradual is safer. 20 sounds an awful lot. I don't know. Sounds an awful lot to me, Budgie. It really does. Well, anyway, folks, it's time to say farewell and all that. Start with honours. So, look, as I always say, folks, uh, adios, au revoir, cheerio, and until Tuesday night, all being well, uh, I'll see you then. And thank you all for coming as always. Uh, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, whatever you do. And if you get a bit of decent weather, like I always tell you, get away from the computer screen or the telephone, whatever it is you use. Get outside and enjoy a bit of sun. Wrap up if it's cold. So until Tuesday evening, all being well, take care, look after yourself, and I'll speak to you all soon. Enjoy the music.
Silently the snow falls, paints a winter scene, swiftly spreads the dark rim, hides the fading autumn green. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, conjure friendships dear to me. Lightly now the breeze flows, disturbing more than just the leaves. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Patiently the love grows, lifts the weary heart. Gently now she holds me, melts two worlds once apart. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, usher dreams of you and me. Softly then the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the trees.
All together now.
But love's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Melodies of long ago, songs of innocence, harmonies to soothe the soul, paths of consequence. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, awakening joys of you and me. Silently the snow falls, bringing winter symphony.
All together now.
But we're much more
So much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know.
We are one small glow
But an important clue
in the eternal flow. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow.
Take care, folks, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye just now.